So my name is Anthony Herder, and this is the video I'm making based off my interview with an administrator. So I currently teach at West Fargo Cheyenne High School, and it's a pretty big high school. We have one principal, three assistant principals, and a dean of students, and it was one of those people that I interviewed for this assignment. What I'm going to do is list and go over three major takeaways from my interview. Examples from the responses of the administrator that are similar, and an example that is dissimilar to the information in the book Reframing Organizations. And then I'm going to explain the importance of understanding how to frame and reframe in today's educational climate. So the major takeaway, the first one that was very interesting to me, was the answer to this question. So I asked, when considering an organizational change, how reliable do you feel case studies are from other schools who have attempted the same change? And when I was thinking of this question, I was kind of expecting the administrator to say, well, they're obviously very important. If things work at another school, there's a good chance they'll work at our school. And surprisingly, the administrator didn't necessarily think that or say that. They stated that every district is unique, and the results for one district might not be repeatable because every initiative needs the right people to lead it, and something that works really well for one person might not work really well for someone else. And we kind of were making small talk about this question. We use the analogy of like a football team. One team might have a lot of success running a wing T power offense, and a different team might have equal success running a spread offense with 5 wide receivers. So just because something works well for one team doesn't necessarily mean it would work great for another team. It kind of depends on the people who are leading the initiative. The second question that was interesting to me was when I asked, when looking to make an organizational change, how do you balance filling immediate needs with long-term success? And the administrator really liked this question. Of course, we need to fill immediate needs, but also really keep the big picture in mind. But the administrator had the great point that some things are non-negotiable, like student safety. So we could find the absolute perfect system for taking attendance. It's absolutely flawless. But if we're not able to, if there's going to be some immediate hiccups, like it's not going to work perfect right away, well, we can't use that, because even though long-term is always going to be a high priority, we can't sacrifice immediate needs for something like student safety. Like, we need to be able to have reliable attendance. We can't risk not knowing where students are. So even if we knew this would be a perfect attendance system in the future, we also need something that works immediately. We can't sacrifice something like that that's non-negotiable for possible long-term success. And the third takeaway from the interview was when I asked, have you ever had a parent or teacher or student accuse you of abusing your power after making a decision, and how did you handle this situation? And the administrator went on to say that, yeah, unfortunately this happens fairly frequently. It's usually related to discipline, because here in the United States with our legal system, there's supposed to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt in order for someone to be found guilty. Or with our legal system, law enforcement needs a search warrant in order to conduct a search. Well, that's not necessarily the case in a school. If, for example, searches can be conducted with a reasonable suspicion, you don't need an actual search warrant. So if many students come in and say that so-and-so has a gun in their locker, well, administrators can go and search for that gun. They don't need to wait for a search warrant. So the legal system is a little bit different than schools when it comes to things like discipline and conducting searches. So a response from the administrator that was similar to what we read in the text. This came when I asked, as a leader within the school, how do you motivate and encourage staff? And the administrator stated that, we need to recognize what they are doing well and focus on their strengths. It is hard to motivate someone by telling them their problems. Got to find wins to encourage people. And that last part just means finding things they are doing well and being, congratulatory for those things. And then in the book, It talks about how this guy, Frank Herzberg, conducted a study, and he asked a bunch of workers about their best and worst experiences at work. And all the good feeling stories at their job had to do with recognition, responsibility, achievement, and learning. And that came from page 151 in the book. But, I mean, this is, to me, I don't want to say obvious, but a great way to motivate people. You find out what they're doing well, you praise them for it, they get happy. I feel like happy workers are going to be more productive workers. I think it's an old-fashioned idea of trying to criticize people and telling them what they're doing wrong and then expect them to take that as motivation to fix their wrongs. That's not the way humans generally work. Humans respond a lot better to praise and being told what they're doing well in order to continue the motivation to get better. And then finding an example in the text that was dissimilar to the information from the interview was actually pretty tough for me because I felt like a lot of the responses aligned well with the text. But if there was one thing I found, I think it was a little bit, came from this question. And I asked the administrator, if you could make an organizational change within our school, what would it be and why? And we talked a little bit about it. The administrator thought it was a good question, and we kind of decided that this could be like anything, just a pie in the sky if you could make any organizational change within the school, district, or whatever. And the administrator, after thinking about it, stated that he said, I wish we had more resources and options for students, things like academies, charter schools, performing arts schools, maybe a school for the gifted and talented, something like that. And this would be, if done correctly, maybe it would be good, but it would need to be done slowly, because I found this quote in the text from page 382, said, when things start to shift, people become unsure of what their duties are, how to relate to others, and who has authority to decide what. Clarity, predictability, and rationality give way to confusion, loss of control, and a sense that politics trumps policy. So if we were to move to more of kind of this school choice type model, maybe long-term it would be a good thing. I'm not sure, but it would need to be done correctly. If we just did it instantly, it would be very difficult because people would lose track of what their responsibilities are, wonder who's making these decisions, and we would lose a lot of clarity and predictability. And finally, the importance of understanding how to frame and reframe in today's educational climate. In education, we have so many things thrown our way. I mean, you think even relatively recently with No Child Left Behind and then Common Core standards, those are kind of at a national level. But even here at Cheyenne, I just came up with this list. We have voice and choice, where students get more say during a flex period of what they are going to go do. We're working on implementing personalized competency-based learning. We're moving towards an academy model in a couple years. We're trying to move towards some standards reference grading. We have a very, very strict cell phone policy now where cell phones should not be visible ever. And that's created some controversy because some teachers are having trouble enforcing it. They think it's too strict. We need to fight battles that maybe some teachers don't want to fight. So just understanding how to initiate change and view it through multiple outlooks is of vital importance. Looking at it through all the lenses and seeing how these decisions being made will affect other people and affect our school climate is very, very important.